During the Battle of the Bulge in December of 1944, this soldier, Hubert Alexander, lost almost all mobility in his legs trying to help his fellow soldiers out of the tank when it was blown up, which sent metal shrapnel into his legs. He lived in almost constant pain and towards the end of his life essentially lived in a hospital room. But he never once stopped fighting for what he believed in or carrying strength in his day-to-day endeavors. This amazing, honorable man was my great-grandfather. As you can probably tell, I hold a lot of love and respect within me for this great man, which is something that everyone who got the pleasure of knowing him holds within them. This isn't surprising considering he came from what is known as the greatest generation. Those who fought not for fame or recognition, but simply because it was the right thing to do. I believe that we can learn lessons from their lives and apply it to our own. If you don't know what exactly the greatest generation is, they're the men and women who grew up during the Great Depression and either fought in World War II or provided their labor to help win the war. Professor of Psychology at the University of North Carolina, Glenn Hull Elder Jr., said that the people of this generation came out of the hardships of the Great Depression with an ability to know how to survive and make do and solve problems. At this time, I'd like to tell you all another story. My granddaddy was constantly in and out of the hospital. Unfortunately for this 97-year-old man, or 26 as he liked to say, he had a slew of health problems, but he was constantly optimistic about his situation, even when the rest of us were not. Anytime he would be in the hospital in the last few years, we would get a phone call. Usually something along the lines of, the doctors don't know how much longer he has, but it's probably days. But every time he pulled through, using strength we didn't know he had left in him. We'd come into his room after hearing of the short time we may have left with him, and find him sitting up in bed, eating chocolate and drinking a Boost. Each time we left wondering how he had this much strength, this much resiliency, this much courage. Those are the values, the lessons we can take into our lives from this great generation. It's those values that I encourage you to take into your own lives and ask yourself how you can be more like those of the greatest generation. Now, I'm not saying we need to think only of that generation, because our society as a whole has made steps in a more progressive direction. We've moved from the straight, white, Christian nuclear family to my generation, Generation Z, which currently has the most racially diverse population, according to a 2018 study by Pew Research Center, as well as more diversity in both sexuality and religion, as stated by Ipsos Mori and Barna Group. So what does this all mean? What am I even trying to leave you with in this talk? Well, at the beginning, I said, the greatest generation are those who fought not for fame or recognition, but simply because it was the right thing to do. And tell me who that sounds like to you. Us, the youth of America, fighting not literally for what we think is right, whether it be with protests, marches, walkouts. We take the fight into our own hands when no one else will, like with March for Our Lives, which was entirely student-led. So I want to leave you with this idea. It's important to learn from the generations past, but it's equally as important to remember that just as we learn by example from those such as my grandfather, someday we will be teaching the future generations. So what kind of lessons do you want to leave? Thank you.